Hey guys, Andy here. So I think one of the most interesting and one of the price brackets I actually really enjoy testing is that kind of low to mid-range or low mid-range or that kind of £200 to £400 or £500 area. Because I think you can get some really good devices in there. It's kind of where if you drew a Venn diagram of good devices and value devices, it's kind of where it just crosses there. And you get some really good devices at a really good price. So I've been using the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max for almost a week now, I think, as my main device. My SIM card has gone into it and I've been using it as my own device. And it is a device I paid for. I sort of made that clear if you haven't watched my videos before. I buy all my own devices. So you're going to get hopefully kind of unbiased and honest opinions. So let's just clarify on what this is again. It's the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max. Now I think somebody commented on the unboxing video saying the Max is just kind of an Indian version. It's basically the same as the Pro, so you can take this as being the Redmi Note 10 Pro. The Note 10 does seem to be quite a different device. The Pro version does have a lot of upgrades on it. And I paid £265 on eBay for this, so that gives you a rough idea what sort of price we're looking at. So let's get on and see what I thought about it, I suppose. So as I do with all reviews, we'll kick off with the design. And I really like the design of this Note 10 Pro Max. It's just a really nice, I don't quite know what you call that coating on the back there. I think it looks really good. It does have a pretty huge camera bump. It's like a double camera bump. And it's one of the few devices that when I have it on like a mat or something and push it, I can feel the camera bump is actually like working like an anchor, stopping me from moving the device around on like my mouse mat or something. It's 192 grams, so it is quite big. It's 8.1 millimeters thick. The fingerprint sensor is actually side mounted on the power button and generally has been quick and reliable for me. You can have it that it's just touch sensitive, or you have to actually press the power button to activate it. I've got it so it's just touch sensitive. And it's worked very well. The device does have face unlock as well, which I've found seems to work quite well, but that obviously you need to be aware isn't really as secure as a fingerprint sensor. It does come with a case, which I have had on almost all the time, and with a screen protector applied, which thankfully I had on because I did manage to sort of scuff the screen protector a bit. I don't know if you can see that just here, when I've been using it out riding. Screen protector's a bit of a dust magnet, but a lot of them are. They're generally quite cheap ones that get pre-installed. If you're that bothered, I would take that off and put on a tempered glass one. But yeah, design-wise, for me, it's pretty much full marks. I really like the look of that device. Really very nice. Hardware-wise, we're looking at a Snapdragon 732G, which is an 8nm chipset. It's got an octa-core CPU. It's got an Adreno 618 GPU. This particular model has 128 gig of storage and 8 gig of RAM. Sorry, 6 gig of RAM. But you can get that with 8 gig and you can get that 64 gig with 6 gig. So I'm kind of in the middle bracket there. All of that scored 1712 as an average on Geekbench 5, which puts it just behind the OnePlus Nord and actually, interestingly enough, just ahead of my Pixel 5. But we'll talk more about kind of the fluidity of it as we move on. It is dual SIM and has a micro SD card dedicated slot, all in the one very long SIM tray. The speaker, I think it sounds quite good, generally quite well rounded. Let's give you a quick blast. Coco, so I made a single back that you put my logo, and I got $5.36 for its shares when they went public on the London Stock Exchange, valuing the company. Interestingly, it only actually scored an average of 83.8 decibels on my test across 3 different sort of bits of music, well, 2 bits of music on a podcast, which is actually quite low down on my list. But as I think it sounds for a smartphone speaker reasonably well rounded. Hardware wise, it is lacking this device. It is lacking NFC, which probably for the first time I realised how much I do use NFC. So using this device as my main device, it meant that when I went out cycling, I had to take my credit card with me, because normally I literally just take my phone, I'll pay for my coffee and cake with the NFC on my device and Google Pay. So that would be the one deal breaker for me, I think. Is it a deal breaker? Or is it an annoyance? Maybe it's just an annoyance. The screen is a Super AMOLED 120 Hertz, which I do have turned on and have had turned on the whole time. HDR10. It's 6.67 inches and 2400 by 1080, which is a 20:9 ratio. That comes out at about 395 pixels per inch and 85.7% screen to body ratio. Generally, I think the screen is really quite nice. It does default to 60 Hertz, but as I say, I pumped it up to 120. I think it looks pretty good. So by default, I realised actually it's slightly oversaturated. It blows some of the colours out too much. And I suppose where I saw it, or where it's most evident perhaps, is when I opened up Strava. Strava has, I suppose, just an orange that I'm used to, and I opened up on this device and it was quite red. And I thought, oh, that looks a little bit weird. I compared it to my Pixel 5. I thought, yeah, that's definitely redder than it should be. But then I found you can tweak it in the display settings. I don't need to show you, I suppose. You can tweak it in the display settings, and you can change the color temperature, and you can change just the kind of the saturation, all sorts. And then after that, you can see here, if I just circle the Note 10 on the right hand side next to my Pixel, you can see the difference hopefully afterwards, and I think it does make it look a lot better. And yeah, the screen generally, I think it's very good. It scored 627 lumens on my light meter, which is okay. It's kind of middle of the pack. That's where most devices end up these days, around the 600 to 700 mark. And I generally had no issues. I used it quite a lot when I was out cycling. Actually, we had some sun this last week. I had no problems seeing the screen at all. So yeah, the screen, again, that can be an area that's a bit of a cost saver on a budget device, but the screen seemed pretty good. Onto the other area that can be a cost saver on a budget device, the lenses or the cameras. So this has, the main lens is 108 megapixel f1.9 regular wide angle. The secondary is an 8 megapixel ultra wide, which is f2.2. Then there's a 5 megapixel macro lens, which is f2.4, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. On the front is a 16 megapixel f2.5 regular wide angle. So I did do a whole separate video on the cameras. I will try and remember to throw it up in the corner, whichever corner it's going to be, I think that one. So I would recommend going watch that. It's about 9 minutes long, but it goes through all the different lenses and the different conditions. To give you a bit of a summary, generally, they're pretty good. Again, cameras often an area where a budget phone is savings are made. The lenses seem pretty good. My one concern really was the saturation of the colours using the main lens. So again, I've been out cycling a lot. My bike is kind of a orangey red colour, and quite often it came through as kind of a bright burning red. It looked quite fake basically. But I would imagine that can be adjusted one way or another through software patches, and maybe there's even settings I've not found. I only realised this morning I could try installing Gcam, which I did. Actually, it didn't really make any difference. I only took a couple of pictures, and it'd be better testing if I'd done that a week ago and tested it on things like my bike in the sunshine. But bottom line, yeah, to me it's a software issue. The sensors themselves seem pretty good. And obviously it's got an ultra wide, which I think is a bit of a necessity these days on cameras. So yeah, the lenses generally pretty good. Even in low light, they were pretty good. The front facing camera, I guess I would probably best describe just as okay. So it's all right. The video footage, again, I was quite surprised. One thing that phones often struggle with is when you're panning, because if it's got image stabilization, it's trying to take away that little bit of movement and just keep it steady for you. Even though you're still moving, it's trying to keep that image. So when you pan, it can sometimes struggle to work out, well, is that just a bit of a movement or is that an actual, and that can be what causes it to, and actually it looked pretty good, I thought. The video footage generally was quite smooth. Again, the colour saturation needs a bit of a tweak. I don't know quite why they've gone like that. I think maybe it's a Samsung thing they've tried to copy, I don't know. But yeah, all in all, the cameras, again, go and watch the separate video for more detail. Then the software, we're running Android 11 and MIUI 12. Which actually these days looks quite nice, has quite a lot of features, and MIUI, or a reason not to buy a Xiaomi phone in the past would be the software. That's just not the case now. MIUI is actually a pretty good version of Android. Obviously it's got gestures. It's got other things like quick ball and second space. I'm not going to go into the detail of MIUI. You could probably look that up in a different video. But just to say, it is actually pretty good. There are adverts scattered throughout it, but you can turn most of those off. And I did do a separate video if I remember. I'll link that one up in the corner of how to sort of just turn that off without any hack. Literally just options in the settings to turn all of them off. And it's just reasonably slick as well. So I mentioned the Geekbench 5 score of 1712. And actually, it's quite a smooth, that is enough power to give you a pretty smooth experience. So again, MIUI, I think it gets a thumbs up. The security update at the moment is from February. We're literally April the 2nd right now. That's not bad. That's not bad, I don't think. I give them credit for that. You can game on it. I played a little bit of Mario Kart. It has no problems with Mario Kart. I didn't really, that's about as far as my gaming goes. And it seemed to be just fine. Then let's move on to the battery. So the battery is a LiPo 5020 milliamp hours or 5020 milliamp hour non-removable battery. With the brick included, which actually unfortunately in this case was like a European brick, so I just used my regular chargers, but it does do fast charging at 33 watts, which they say goes 60% in half an hour, or all the way from 0 to a full in an hour and a quarter, which is pretty good. In my battery test, my hour-long battery test, which is watching a video for set the screen brightness to 300 lumens, and then it's basically an hour-long test doing a few different things. It finished on 94%, which is okay, it's pretty good. It's up there with some of the better devices. But actually, the battery life is pretty epic. If I go into AccuBattery, you can see that at the bottom. So it says 9 hours 23 screen on time, which is, that's good, but it's not amazing. But that combined use look, so screen off time, if you just left the device on your desk and didn't touch it, 5 days it's lasting. 5 days. And combined use, 62 hours. So basically, the last time I charged this was yesterday morning at 7:30, and I'm still on 45%. So that's been going, whatever it is, 30 odd hours, and we're just past halfway. So you literally could take it off charge on a Saturday and not have to charge it again Saturday, Sunday, till Monday night. That's pretty epic. That's my usage. I'm not a massively heavy user. So obviously your mileage may differ, but still, that's pretty epic battery life. So in conclusion, I think you would sum this device up by saying it's just a good solid phone. It doesn't particularly have any weaknesses. It's got a decent screen, it's got a decent enough set of cameras. It's very smooth to use, got amazing battery life. It's got I think it's a beautiful design. Honestly, if this was a 5-inch device and it had NFC, I could use this as my main daily device without really any concerns. And it costs £265. That's pretty impressive, I think. That's pretty impressive. If I had to pick its weakest point, it's maybe the cameras. Maybe it's the cameras, but not that they're particular. Again, I think they're good enough. I would be okay using them. Would I? I think I would. I know camera. I do like to have it. That's what I've got a Pixel phone, for God's sake. But they're pretty good. Again, just that color saturation. If I can figure that out, I think it's fine. So yeah, there you go. The Redmi Note 10 Pro Max, around about 265. Really nice device. So, as I mentioned earlier, I do buy all of my own devices. Please consider going to patreon.com/AAUK or buymeacoffee.com/AAUK. I hope those are right. If not, I'm fairly sure they're in my video description of all my videos. If this video has been helpful or you've watched other videos that have been helpful, please do consider chipping in, because that's when I can afford to buy more phone devices. I know people have moaned because I've been doing more cycling videos, because I do buy my own devices. So if I'm busy doing other things or spending money on other things, I haven't got money for phone devices. So yeah, just have a think about it. It'd be great if you can contribute anything towards it. Again, it's not that I'm hard up or anything, so I'm not trying to plead that I'm some pauper that's got no way of getting by and paying my mortgage. I'm fine. It'd be nice, little contributions, because I've bought a lot of devices over the years that I end up losing a lot more money than YouTube makes me. Anyway, let me know your thoughts about the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max in the comments down below. I do read all of them and I'll comment and reply where suitable. But for now, my name's Andy and I'll catch you all again soon.